Bonjour, mon ami. It is me. I'm Adri. This is your unboxing for your February Culture Club. Thank you for being part of this club. We are having so much fun seeing what you guys do with all of these. It is fun to share our tidbits with you, but it is even more exciting to see how they end up in your home. So let's unpack another one. Let's dive in and let's get snacking. We have a romantical, fantastical box for you this time. We put together things that we would want to share with our most beloved to either woo them into continuing to love us or to woo a new love. But it's foods that we love either way. So if you were spending this month with your gal pals, whatever else, it is going to work just as well. So let's start with our sardines. These are a vintage sardine from Les Mouettes d'Arvor. Les Mouettes d'Arvor is a French tin seafood brand that has been preserving seafood in a much more French way. When we talk about tin seafood, we're often making our most of our references to the Iberian Peninsula. People regard Spain and Portugal as the hotspot of tin seafood, but Les Mouettes d'Arvor is doing it well, they're doing it responsibly, and they're doing it with French flair. The vintage series, I think, does a really great job of that. When I think of cellar aging bottles, I think of France, and now when I think of vintage sardines, I think of Les Mouettes. This is a brand that was named after an old soccer team in the area, but these sardines are really hearty and meaty and a really great way to begin your journey into seafood if you are new to it. And if you're not new to it, I think you're really going to appreciate the firmness of the flesh in these in particular. They get brined and then dried before they get fried, and I think it creates a much more almost like red meat bite and chew in a really, really lovely way. Also, the olive oil in this is really delicious, and you can use it as a base for maybe frying them again before you put them on toast, or for frying them before you put them on like a potato and dill salad, or before you go camping. But either way, you can kind of soak up all of the really good oil with something like these crackers or a really great baguette. And get your French fancy on, maybe throw some butter on there, but I am really, really looking forward to the moment to enjoy something that is not just small sardines. We love small sardines, but the meatiness here I think is really special and really fun. Not to mention this tin is beautiful. We have the 2019, 2020, and 2021 sardines, so you can collect them all. If you have a teeny tiny wine cellar, maybe under your pantry like I might, throw your tins in there too, and let's start aging our tiny seafood as well as our favorite French wines. So those are your sardines. Let's move on to cheese. You've got three, because France, right? You have Lark's Meadow, Poco Rojo, Comte, and Fourme Mouelleux. Let's go in this order. Poco Rojo is a cheese from Lark's Meadow in Rexburg, Idaho. We consider them local because they are less than 4 hours away. They are doing slow food style cheese making with sheep's milk and with thistle rennet. Both of those things are not quite as common here in the States, so seeing something that is using both sheep's milk as the predominant milk and a wash rind and thistle rennet, those are all tickling the cheesy geekiness in me, and I hope it will do the same for you. Poco Rojo means that it's slightly washed, so you get a very slight whiff of wash rind texture and consistency. If you are fond of our Taleggio or a Poisse or raclette, you know that bright orange hue that comes from those types of cheeses. This one is just a hint of that, a whisper of it. So you get the baseline meaty savoriness, but you get a really fun kind of fudgy, almost pudding-like interior that I think is really fun and really special. So when you have this one, try to let it come down to room temperature. I think temperature is really important for this one. So leave it out for as long as you can before you dive in. We want you to get the most flavor out of it possible, and having it as close to room temperature as possible is going to help you do that. Smear this onto your crackers, mix it with your saucisson sec. if you are going to be making some sort of carby pasta situation, I've mixed this with brown butter and tossed it with hot, freshly cooked pasta, and it's very, very delicious. So if you're not making a board, cook with this guy instead. Enjoy. Now next, Comte. Comte is part of one of the longest food litigations against Gruyere. If you know one or both, we're basically talking about the same cheese. The French and the Swiss will kill me for saying that, so please don't tell anybody. However, it is an Alpine style cheese from the Jura mountain region, and it is split in half. Half is Swiss, half is French. Gruyere is a town on the Swiss side, and the French wanted to keep that name. So there's been a legal battle for who gets to use the name, and the French argument was that their cheese was named after a Gruyere, G-R-U-Y-E-R, who was a tax collector who collected taxes in the form of cheese, and their cheese was named after him. Also, I'd like to pay my taxes in cheese someday, but that is neither here nor there. Moving on, the French realized that it was probably not going to bode well for them, so they have their AOC under Comte, which refers to the Comte French region on their side of the Jura mountain range where this cheese is made. You will recognize this texture, you will recognize this color. It is all things beautiful and Alpine. We get the very, very beginning of those really lovely amino acid based crystallization structures, so you get a tiny bit of crunch, but melt for the love of all things good and holy and delicious. If you are making fondue, if you are making a bechamel and adding cheese to that, if you're going to do a baked cheese pasta, if you are going to make a grilled cheese, if that is your love language, Comte. It is sweet, it is nutty, it is easy to love, brings you in. I can't wait for you to try it. But if you are wondering, is Comte better, is Gruyere better? They're both delicious, so either way you win and you're right, but pit them against each other and take a side and join the 100+ year litigation that is Comte versus Gruyere. Now, next, your Fourme Mouelleux. This is a recipe based on one of the most respected and well-known blue cheeses in France, which is Fourme d'Ambert. However, this one is made by Matt Caputo's pal, Rodolphe Meunier, who is widely regarded as the premier cheese affineur in France. Fourme Mouelleux is a really lovely, really dense, pretty savory blue cheese. However, we combat that savoriness with an injection and soaking in Vouvray white wine. Vouvray is a Chenin Blanc based wine that this cheese rests in. It soaks up a lot of that really sweet flavor. Even though it's a pretty acid forward wine, we get a lot of like the residual sugar sticking around in this cheese, and you have something that is kind of begging to be part of your next dessert cheese board. In a coursed out haute cuisine meal, you would see your cheese course served after your entrees. It would be the bridge to your sweetest and most decadent dessert courses. I want to have you have your cheese in that moment. Serve this with pears, serve it with caramelized nuts, serve it with your favorite cookies or confections, and serve it with other really decadent, really vibrant, really pungent cheeses. But if you're not gonna have a lot, just have this one and really, really enjoy just the complexity that comes from this cheese alone. I often don't recommend just eating cheese by itself. That's something I do in the privacy of my own home without telling you people what I'm doing. This is the one that started that. Don't worry about adding things to this. You're going to enjoy it by itself because of its natural complexity and length and character. So, Fourme Mouelleux for you. Okay, a meat, a salami, Olympia Provisions Saucisson Sec. We are big, big fans of Eli Cairo. He is the owner and the salami master at Olympia Provisions, based in Portland, Oregon. He was the USDA's first salameria in Oregon. However, he has roots here in Utah. He was raised in Sandy. We consider him local and one of our bestest pals, and you get to enjoy one of our favorite salamis from Eli. Eli spent years in Europe learning the oldest and truest traditions of meat preservation, curing preserving in all of the tastiest and most delicious ways and brought all of that knowledge back to the States. He used all of his superpowers to start something really special in Portland, but it is a process that is founded on old world traditions and old world flavors. It's hip and hot again to be part of the old world. I want you to celebrate and enjoy all of that mold on the outside. It means that you're getting a really true and fermented food. Let's not get weird about fermentation. Your cheese is fermented, your wines are fermented, your beers are fermented. Some of our most delicious foods all require bacterial fermentation, and this is no different. More industrial sized salami makers will roll their salami in rice flour to mimic the growth of healthy mold. That is not what is happening here. This is full of flavor. That casing adds texture and robustness and a little bit of funkiness. So when you cut into your salami, you don't need to remove the casing. It is natural and it is delicious, but it is your choice. You are able to remove it. It is not hard, but it can also be eaten just like it is. And a saucisson sec recipe is pork forward, but with a backbone of garlic and black pepper. I was raised at the end of the kind of other white meat phenomenon that the US created, and we were basically taught that pork was flavorless and boring, and Eli is bringing us back to what pork is supposed to taste like. It has its own flavor, it has its own really lovely texture, and it is highlighted by little bits of fat back that are within this salami that melt like butter. It is special. It is something we're really, really proud to share with you, and I hope you enjoy it. Now, you have a cracker, because we could not send you all of this tasty goodness without something to scoop it up with. So, meet the sweet onion and creme fraiche version of Rustic Bakery. This was the first version that I fell in love with because I loved it with cheeses like Poco Rojo. So, if you want to get really fun, really crazy, put this in a small baking dish, stick a piece of garlic in it, drizzle some oil and salt over it, bake it at 350 for maybe 15 minutes, and then use this as your spoon, and don't come up for air until they're both gone. You don't have to do that. You can also enjoy it with all of these things. However, I find this texture and a soft, ooey gooey, slightly warm cheese could be the best recommendation I have for Valentine's ever at all. So, enjoy. Dessert. We sent you 2 sweet treats. The first is from Chapon, based in Paris. This is their milk chocolate with caramel chips. It is a salted caramel that is really, really nice and crunchy. It is the kind of chocolate I want after a really long meal where I don't have room for a full dessert. This is the answer to that. We love Chapon for the kind of classic French texture and flavor and consistency. It is decadent, it is luxurious, it is highlighted by some fun crunch from those caramel chips, but save it for when you can't make dessert or when you're just too full, and this will give you the same satisfaction as a full plated large dessert with just a few bites. Now, the last thing, if you are here at Caputo's ever at all, or have known us for a long time, you know these bonbons. These are made by the coolest guy in the world, Chris Blue. Chris got his start at Charlie Trotter's in Chicago, a Michelin star restaurant. He was their pastry chef, and he left there to make the most phenomenal filled chocolates in the entire world. The chocolates are very paper thin. It means that you get a full bite of the flavors he's highlighting in each flavor. I am currently re-obsessed with the passion fruit. You're going to get 5 unique flavors to your own Culture Club box, but enjoy that really thin shell, the blast of flavor in the interior, either in caramel or ganache form, and enjoy that handmade die that is done by Chris Blue himself. They are fun, they are decadent. One will be the perfect way to kiss your love goodnight, and I'm going to kiss you goodnight with these. It is always a pleasure. I hope you enjoy all of these things. Let us know what you think. Happy Valentine's Day, happy February, happy March, happy life. We'll see you later.